Her Bak Egyptian Initiate, the fourth day. The sage sat for a long time in silence. When Her Bak showed uneasiness, he said, "If yesterday's lesson suggests no question, we have no starting point for today's." Her Bak leapt at the opening. "Master, I didn't press for a definition of the cars. I was waiting for the moment you might think suitable. But another problem plagues me. What is this me that survives a man's death? The texts say it must return to its car, keep its heart, not lose its bar nor its earthly name. Who is it whose body lies in the tomb, who isn't the man's bar, his car, nor his heart, since his aim is to get possession of them? His sole attribute is his name, which he can lose, since bar, car, ak, and body are separate from that which is named." "The name," answered the sage, "is the particular designation of that one whom the constituents of the person who bore it belong. Terrestrial birth brings them together in an individual. Death dissociates them. Existence between birth and death is a loop, or knot in the cord of destiny, and what determines the loop or knot determines the name. But death doesn't cut the cord. Destiny continues in the duat. A fresh existence is prepared there until the necessity ceases. The me is the desire for personal existence, and this, though it arises through the incarnation of a spiritual being, will absorb the inclinations and appetites that belong to the car's affinities. The me is neither the body nor any of the spiritual factors. Its will to exist draws to it the vital attributes that clothe it. And this is the holding power of the cord that lasts as long as the will to exist prevents the soul's final liberation. There may be twists, knots, loops in it, changes of direction or name, but it remains the link between one life and another as long as the name born in the life that precedes it isn't erased before the new life begins, which would break the terrestrial destiny." "What happens," asked Her Bak, "when a man changes his name during life?" "The new name, if taken deliberately, maintains the continuity, but alters the rhythm and the man's relations with the world. Nek, the me's will to exist, is a blind force of cohesion and continuity. In every organic creature it arouses the copulative tendency, unk. It is one of the consequences of the 7 fatal powers. You can call them fatal because they are constructive and indispensable. You can also call them 7 points of the star of Sefekt that is sealed on every creature. We touch on the division of 1 into 2. Consider now the formation of the 4 directions that 1 contains in potential. The first syllable of Ior, IA, denotes polarization in the source, north and south, high and low, everything in nature that exhibits it as a stick, standard, dorsal column, a grave. There is a figure of the 7-branched star of Sefekt, in brackets Sesheta, which signs all creatures. The second syllable, or, gives the idea of extension, amplitude, through the possibility of volume. Think of a sphere rotating on its axis. Nothing can explain the why or how of the separation of Ie from or, which produces volumes through the 4 directions. but we know that Iku denotes the tendency of one to seek and see itself in another. A principle expressed by Ki. Iku, then, is the first of the mysterious powers that are inherent in the original movement of division. The outcome is manifestation in corporal existence. The product of Iku is Nek and Inek. The second of these powers is Mer, universal principle of attraction, affinity, love. The extremities of an axis differ. North differs from south, male from female, and one attracts the other. Mer is the force that urges two complements separated by Iku to rejoin. It is the motive force in nature that has, quote, become, unquote, through division, and it works by the conjunction of complements. Selective affinity is Mer's mode of action, through the attractiveness of a given thing for some vital element conformable with its nature. This is what we mean by the phrases merit of the north and merit of the south in reference to the selective affinities of the two lands that receive from Nut and Happy the gifts appropriate to their nature. The opposite of Mer is Kesef, repulsion. The third power is Sekhem, third agent of becoming. Sekhem is the power that creates darkness by annulment of two abstract principles from which the concrete proceeds. Khem is the secret place of generation, the dark and hidden centre that hides the netter or incarnate word until the time for manifestation. It would seem, suggested Her Bak, that the place for this should be the womb. Hemt. No, Hemt is the container of Khem. Hemt, meaning womb, is the passive container of the living chaos, Khem, that arises with the incarnation of an active fire, destructive or generative, such as the fire of lightning or seed. Khem is the dark chaos that gives birth to light without knowing it, as a mother who doesn't know her child until the moment of delivery. That is why in the vulgar tongue, Khem means ignorance. Sekhem is its effective power, the destructive power from which conception arises. The male and female factors would make nothing without this pitiless force that wills the destruction of one form for the conception of another and the appearance of a new life. Sekhem is the liberator of the constituents of the Ka. It is Sekhem that effects the difficult disengagement so as to prepare a basis or form for the Ba and conception of a new spiritual being in the Duat. The personification of Sekhem is Sekhmet, who is the disintegrative aspect of Hathor in the gestation of the new being after death, and of Mut in the gestation of earthly creatures. The fourth power is Kepher, the power of transformation that creates the germ. The fifth and sixth are effects of Iku and Mer, the powers Ab and Tek, of which we shall speak in the fifth lesson. The seventh is Seshat Sefekt, power of crystallization of characters in nature or concretion of ideas in matter. It is the expression of characteristics of Ka in the form of an individual. It is impossible to understand the development, first corporal, then incorporeal, of a human life without learning to know these seven powers. The first three are causal drives in becoming. The other four are agents of actualization, activities that derive from the three causal drives and bring out their effects. all are incomprehensible as to principle, for they spring from substance in its abstract state, the laws of which human thought is incapable of conceiving. But the results are perceptible, and it is important to make a profound study of their character and functions if you wish to penetrate the mysteries of the duat and to understand the spiritual metamorphosis of the human being. They are the movers that regulate all life in our universe, but they are not to be confounded with the properties of Ka and the Kas, which are active qualities of celestial bodies modified by their influence on one another. Reflected in every earthly body according to its seed, they become its Kas or particular vital qualities. But in a world of opposites, every quality has its reverse, and these, as regards the Kas, are passive attributes, hem-sut, which manifests as resistances. Ra has 14 Kas, said Her Bak. Has he passive attributes? He has them in respect of his material body and all that is part of him on earth, but the glorious beings that have achieved unity have no resistances. Does the resistance of passive attributes make them evil forces? There is no such thing as absolute evil. Their inertia is baneful and can be deadly if it neutralizes the activity of the Kas, but life results when resistance provokes reaction and the reactive force nek prevails. Note that the root signifies living passivity, while signifies inertia, having subdued the activity. Why was the word chosen for Royal Majesty and the Seer? You don't see, thoughtless disciple, that it is precisely this inner passivity that gives the king his majesty and the seer his vision. It is in a state of not willing that they receive an impulse of wisdom, capture a ray of light, recognize the true law of the true the true path. Woman and womb are the passive factors in animal humanity that receive and carry, and it is the passive resistance of the helm that steers the boat. Master, I see how the Medunettas give the, quote, right view, unquote, the, quote, right idea, unquote. I see that one must seek out the meanings of passivity. Shall I be given instruction on the principle of activity? The male activity of the bull, Ka, symbolizes the active qualities of the Kas, inherent in every body and organ, since Ptah created them. And though the organs may be cosmic functions incarnate, they share in each individual the characteristics of his particular Ka, which I haven't yet discussed. When you are trying to fathom this subject by your sole effort, note the nuances of what I have said. When I speak of the Kas of celestial bodies, I don't only refer to the stars, but to all glorified bodies like the sun from which light streams. Their spiritual Ka is different. It is no longer a question of natural vital qualities. As to Ra, the powers of his Kas vary as they proceed from his material or his divine body. Here is a precise example of symbolic analogy. Ra's eye, the sun, is the visible body of being that creates earth and gives it life, centre and master of our world. It is the perfect body that sums up the qualities and functions of the stars that depend on it, in a state of intensity, subtlety, and equilibrium that indeed makes him ruler of these imperfect subjects. That is why Ra's incorruptible body is the type of what Pharaoh should be for our land. A being who gives life, equilibrium and strength, the leaven of his people, whose physical body radiates his active qualities, or Ka's, as Ra's body radiates his, which are 14. Ra is the living heart of the organs or worlds that depend on him, thus also Pharaoh, Ka, and chief of all Ka's in his realm. Let us sleep on this. Tomorrow we will try and learn more about these states.